Hey there, so to kind of apologise for not having a review or any type of video up on last Friday, today I've got 3 reviews for the price of 1 video. The 3 reviews in question are of Gravity, Philomena and The Butler. I enjoy them all in different ways, so let's get on with the reviews. Let's start with Gravity. Gravity is about 2 astronauts played by Sandra Bullock and George Clooney who are up making repairs to one of the space stations when some debris comes and causes a lot of problems as it kind of swoops, not that you can really swoop in space but you know what I mean, as it's stuck in the Earth's gravitational pull, so it ends up destroying the station they're on and they end up floating in space and attempt to try and get back home. I'm sure you've either seen or heard many reviews about Gravity so far, and I generally have to agree with what everybody's saying, that it's amazing. I saw it in 3D IMAX and I'm so glad I did because it's just phenomenal. I think you definitely have to see it in one or the other, or both, because it just adds something more. It's one of the best 3D films I have seen for ages. Like, it's probably like the best since Avatar did loads of new stuff, and well, you can say the story of Avatar wasn't that great, but what Avatar did technically was brilliant, and Gravity's just pushed it to another level. And yeah, that's just amazing to watch. Wow is one of the only things I can say about that film, and I saw it like a few weeks ago and I still am just blown away by it. Because it's a spectacular film and it doesn't let up on the tension. It's just an intense thriller. I don't think I've ever been so tense watching a film in my life, or at least not recently. You know, when you're sitting in the cinema, you're having a drink and you're eating your popcorn or your chocolate or whatever. No. I was glued to my seat. I could not move. My hands kept tensing up and I was like, oh, because I was just like, what is going to happen to these people? And it was just wow, so good. The performances are great. George Clooney is kind of George Clooney. He's the sort of calming presence for Sandra Bullock's character because this is her first time in space and unfortunately everything goes wrong, so she gets a bit stressed, which is understandable. But Sandra Bullock is pretty amazing. Like, I know she does make some cruddy films now and then, or like does rom-coms and stuff, but with this film you definitely know why she is an Oscar winner, because she is pretty amazing. And I really liked her character and you were just right there with her all the way through. I did tear up a few times. I have this unfortunate habit in the sense that if someone is crying on screen, then I start crying in sympathy, which is a bit awkward. Like, I think it kind of hit those emotional buttons quite well because you are with these characters and you're desperate for them to survive. Yeah, Gravity was pretty damn amazing, so I'd give that 5 out of 5 because I loved it. And I definitely think that is one you need to experience at a cinema. Now on to Philomena. Philomena is about a woman called Philomena, played by Dame Judi Dench, who wants to look for a secret lost son who was taken from her when she was a teenager, and she had him like out of wedlock in this nunnery, and the nuns put him up for adoption. She had no rights about what happened to her son, and now 50 years later she wants to finally find out what happened to him. She's always thought about him and wondered about him, but now she's desperate to find out if he's alright and what happened to him after he left the nunnery in Ireland. She's joined on this journey by Steve Coogan's character Martin, who is a journalist and ex-spin doctor for Parliament, and he's not necessarily a likeable character. Like, he is a journalist, and obviously journalists aren't always liked or likeable, but his relationship with Philomena is really interesting, and it's because of his connections that they can do a lot more than she's been able to do previously, because every time she's gone back to the nunnery, they're like, oh no, you just signed him away, there's nothing you can do, or yeah, there's a fire and the record's all burnt. And it's kind of thanks to Martin that they're able to find out what does happen. It's based on a true story and it's even more heartbreaking because of it. It's one of those weird films that has those moments of comedy and make you laugh and smile, but then the next moment you're sobbing. Again, I teared up a bit watching this film a few times, again because people are crying. The performances all round were pretty damn good. Judi Dench was amazing, as was the actress called Sophie Kennedy-Clark, who played the younger Philomena. They were both brilliant. Steve Coogan is interesting because I personally am not a huge Steve Coogan fan. I never really watched Alan Partridge and never really liked that sort of humour, but his performance was pretty good, and also he wrote or co-wrote the screenplay, and I think it was a very good screenplay. It's very well written. It's got all these nice little witty moments, but then the gut-wrenching parts that you're just like, oh, and yeah, it's very, very good. If there's two words I could describe Philomena with, I'd say funny and sweet, because that it is, and at the same time, bit teary. But no, I really enjoyed it. I would give that 5 out of 5 as well, because that one tugged at my heartstrings. Now finally onto The Butler. The Butler is about a black butler played by Forest Whitaker who served in the White House for a number of years and through many different presidents, and it's kind of through his eyes what's going on in the country from when he was obviously a child in the 1920s till present day, President Obama being elected President of the United States in 2008. So it spans this whole time period, so you get to see all the civil rights movement and different presidents, what happens. So you got like hints towards Watergate and Nixon, you see JFK, 60 years of American history or more condensed into like 2 hours. A number of times I did tear up, most of it during the segment with JFK and also when Obama was elected. I think performance-wise, Forest Whitaker is pretty damn amazing because he goes from being sort of a 20-30-year-old to being in his 80s, and how he moves and acts as he gets older is amazing. Same with Oprah Winfrey, who plays his wife. They are together for like 50 years or whatever in the time scale of this film, and how they age and how the film shows they age. I have to say the makeup is amazing in this film. Because when it first starts, Forest Whitaker's sitting on this chair and it kind of comes in close up to his face, and I'm thinking, Forest Whitaker's not really that old, is he? I'm like, I didn't think he was that old. I thought it was like, 40s, maybe early 50s. And like he had wrinkles and he looked more like in his late 80s. And I was like, I didn't think he was that old. And then it went to a flashback back to his childhood. And then I was like, this is kind of future, he's got makeup. And as it went on and the different characters had more and more makeup on to show they were older, I thought that was just brilliant. I think that's one of the things, and then it's believable that they've aged. It doesn't look too fake. So yeah, makeup and costumes as well that kind of show what decade you're in. For instance, in the 90s where everyone's in tracksuits, I kind of like those sort of touches. It's a bit jarring, I have to say, with so many big name people being like president. They're the ones you see on the trailer, but they're only in for like a scene or two. For instance, Jane Fonda's Ronald Reagan's wife, and she's 10 minutes in the film, if that. And it's kind of a bit jarring sometimes. Some actors completely went into the role and were brilliant. James Marsden, I thought he made a very good JFK. As did Liv Schreiber, being Lyndon B. Johnson, I thought they made very good presidents. So I think it was sometimes a bit jarring, and you kind of a bit like spot the actor with all the different people as the presidents or the president's wives and these other major characters in American history. Besides from that, I did really enjoy it. I like films set in history anyway, or at least sort of modern history, so I found that very interesting. And yeah, Forest Whitaker and Oprah Winfrey were both amazing, and they deserve awards anyway. It definitely knew how to pull on your heartstrings, but at the same time it didn't necessarily annoy me, but it felt cliche for knowing how to do that. And sometimes things did feel fully packed in because you needed Forest Whitaker's character to experience all these moments of history. And like, if that was, I know it's based loosely on the real life story of a butler in the White House. Of all the stuff that happened to Forest Whitaker happened to the real life guy. Goodness knows how he's still alive, because he went through some horrible things, was present for many life-changing and world history-changing moments. So in some ways, yeah, that feels a bit kind of just shove everything in, if that makes sense. I'd give The Butler 4 out of 5. So there is my 3 reviews for the price of 1 video. Let me know down below if you've seen any of these films and what you thought of them, and I will see you next time.